Good morning, my friends. If you're watching this at the kitchen table with a steaming mug and a newspaper folded to the crossword, or you're half dressed in a cozy robe while the light slips across the sink, I want this to feel like a porch chat with a doctor who knows your neighborhood and your mornings. I'll be gentle, but I'm going to be honest because breakfast, the most ordinary meal in America, quietly decides how steady your heart feels and how strong your legs feel for the rest of the day. Here's the curveball. Many folks over 70 think they're eating light in the morning and still feel shaky, sleepy, crampy, or off balance before lunch. If that sounds familiar, ask yourself a simple question as you glance at your plate or your cup. Is your breakfast protecting you? Or is it sneaking you into a blood sugar roller coaster and a blood pressure dip that your heart and legs have to fight all morning? Picture a very normal morning. The coffee is bold because you like it that way. The toast is white because it's soft and quick. You add a spoon of jam because it reminds you of childhood, and you pour a small glass of orange juice because it feels like vitamins in a cup. You tell yourself you're being good because there were no pancakes and no bacon. Then, about an hour later, your heart taps a little faster. Your hands feel just a touch unsteady. Your calves flirt with a cramp as you stand to get the mail, and your brain asks for something sweet. You are not weak. And you are not broken. You are simply riding a breakfast that spikes fast and fades fast. In the background, vessels that prefer calm, steady fuel are dealing with a sugar surge, then a dip, and the smooth muscle of your arteries is taking cues from caffeine that's stronger than you realize when you haven't eaten enough protein or fiber. It's an ordinary American pattern, and that is good news, because ordinary patterns can be rewritten. Let's talk about the small culprits that show up on almost every counter. Hidden sugars hide in yogurt that looks healthy until you read the label and find a dessert. They hide in flavored creamers that turn coffee into a liquid donut. They hide in instant oatmeal packets that taste like pie filling. Fast starches wear a halo because they seem simple and light. But when the starch has been refined to chew like air-white toast, big bagels, rice cakes, even certain multigrain products that are mostly white flour wearing a brown jacket, it enters your bloodstream like a crowd rushing through an open gate. Strong tea or coffee on an empty stomach amplifies the rush. If you also take certain morning meds, especially those that can lower blood pressure or affect sugar handling, the combination can nudge you toward a mid-morning wobble. None of this means you can't enjoy coffee or bread or a sweet taste now and then. It means we choose the shape of breakfast so your heart and legs feel supported, not surprised. I want you to meet a neighbor of mine in a story that could belong to any cul-de-sac in America. Mrs. Avery is 72, loves her garden, and keeps a tidy bird feeder that attracts cardinals she calls by name. She told me she ate clean in the mornings. One big mug of dark coffee with vanilla creamer, a glass of juice, and a slice of toast. She felt virtuous, skipping the eggs because she was watching cholesterol, and she avoided sausage because she was watching salt. By 10:30, she felt drowsy, then oddly jittery, and her calves would tighten when she stepped off the porch. She blamed arthritis and age, and she tried an extra cup of coffee to push through, which sometimes made her light-headed when she stood. We sat at her kitchen table and made a small, respectful trade. She moved the creamer to the back of the fridge and kept the coffee. But smaller and later, not before a first glass of water. She traded the white toast and juice for a bowl that looked like a flag. Greek yogurt as the base, blueberries and strawberries for color, a sprinkle of chopped walnuts, and a spoon of oats for staying power. On other days, she used 2 eggs, scrambled soft with spinach, and a side of half an avocado on whole grain toast. Suddenly, her morning included the trio I love: protein for steady fuel, fiber for a slow release, and potassium-rich foods that help the body balance fluid and support blood pressure. She didn't go on a diet. She went on a breakfast that respected how a 72-year-old body actually works. 2 weeks later, the cardinals were still visiting, but the calf cramps were rare, the shaky hunger was gone, and she waved from the sidewalk at 11 in the morning instead of napping in the recliner. When I say protein, I'm not prescribing perfection or pushing powders you don't want. I'm asking you to aim for a breakfast that gives your muscles enough building blocks to hold their ground. Older muscles are a little stubborn. They need a louder knock on the door. 20 to 30 grams in the morning is the knock that gets their attention. That can be as simple as 2 eggs and a side of cottage cheese, Greek yogurt with a generous handful of nuts, or a tofu scramble with black beans tucked into a warm corn tortilla. Pair that with fiber you recognize without a label: berries, oats, whole grain toast with the kind of ingredient list you can read, or a small apple sliced alongside your plate. Add a quiet source of potassium like a small banana, sliced into the yogurt or spread with a little peanut butter on toast, or a few slices of avocado on the eggs. If you enjoy smoked salmon or leftover chicken, they are perfectly at home on a breakfast plate. This is senior nutrition designed for a real pantry, not a cooking show. Now, let's peek at the American habits that bump into a safe breakfast without you noticing. Restaurant menus love pancakes the size of a steering wheel, syrup in bottomless bottles, and free refills of coffee that would wake a bear. Fast food offers breakfast sandwiches where the bread's job is mostly to melt in your mouth, which is another way of saying it becomes sugar fast. The grocery aisle lines up cereals that promise heart-healthy futures in oversized fonts while tucking plenty of added sugar into the small print. And at home, we reward ourselves for sleeping poorly by using food as a morning party. Sweet, soft, comforting. I'm not here to scold. I'm here to redirect the first 15 minutes of your day so your arteries, your blood sugar, and the muscles in your calves and thighs feel like you have their back. That is healthy aging at kitchen counter speed. What about caffeine, that faithful companion? Coffee and tea can be part of wellness after 70 if you treat them as partners, not as bosses. Strong coffee before a bite of protein can push your heart rate and, in some folks, nudge blood pressure in odd directions. Coffee after a protein-forward plate is like a friendly nudge instead of a shove. If you love a sweet taste, try a small drizzle of honey or a few drops of vanilla in plain yogurt rather than a flavored cup that doubles as dessert. If you like creamer, pour a teaspoon, not a river. If you love your juice, pour 2 or 3 ounces and stretch it with sparkling water, or slide it into a smoothie that speaks fiber. None of these swaps are punishments. They are grown-up choices that protect what you want to keep. A heart that hums, legs that don't cramp every time you stand, a mind that feels clear for the crossword. The warning signs I want you to respect in the morning are ordinary but meaningful. If you feel a wave of shakiness and urgent hunger an hour after a sweet, starchy breakfast, your body is telling you it wants steadier fuel. If your calves complain every time you start walking from the kitchen to the garage and then settle as you keep moving, your legs are telling you they want a different morning ramp. If you find yourself nodding off mid-morning, even after plenty of sleep, ask what your plate looked like. These are whispers, not panic. We answer whispers with breakfast that stops the spike and the crash. There are red flags too, and they deserve a calm, clear path. Chest discomfort, sudden shortness of breath, one-sided leg swelling and warmth, new weakness in an arm or drooping in a face, or speech that won't line up. Those are not breakfast problems. They are emergency problems, and they need immediate care. Keeping those lines clear lets you live with confidence rather than fear-mongering, which is something I refuse to do to you. It helps to think of breakfast not as a rule, but as a friend who sets you up for the day. The friend says, start with water, so the blood flowing through your heart and legs is not thicker than it needs to be. The friend says, give me protein so muscles keep what you've worked a lifetime to build. The friend says, give me color from something that grew on a plant rather than something that lived forever in a box. And the friend says, keep the sweetness as a grace note, not the song. If you've had a long life with cereal and milk, you do not have to pretend to be someone else tomorrow. You can keep the ritual and change the ratio. Smaller bowl, less sweet kind, a handful of nuts stirred in, a sliced apple on the side, and a boiled egg cracked while the coffee cools down. If you adore toast, make it carry the weight. Whole grain with peanut butter and a few chia seeds, or mashed avocado with a sprinkle of salt and pepper and a squeeze of lemon, plus a side of cottage cheese. If you love a warm bowl, cook plain oats and dress them like a grown-up. Cinnamon, nuts, berries, and a dollop of yogurt for protein. These are natural remedies in the real sense of that phrase. Ordinary foods doing steady work. I want to circle back to legs because the title of today's story carries a promise to protect them. Your legs are where breakfast shows its results first. When your morning fuel spikes and crashes, your muscles feel as if the lights flicker. When you start with steady fuel, your legs feel trustworthy. People notice it on stairs and on the walkway to the mailbox. They notice that the little tremor of a calf cramp that used to show up as soon as they stood now waits until they've gone about their day, or doesn't show up at all. That is over 70 fitness delivered quietly, not from a gym membership, but from a plate and a mug. And by the way, if you take a small stroll after breakfast, even 5 to 10 minutes around the living room or down the block, you help your sugar curve flatten gently. Muscles act like sponges, pulling in sugar so it doesn't loiter in your bloodstream. That small movement after meals is one of my favorite longevity tips because it costs nothing and respects sore knees if you keep it slow and well supported. Some of you will wonder whether this means you can never enjoy pancakes with a grandchild or split a sweet roll at the diner. Absolutely not. Joy is allowed, joy is encouraged, and joy is a nutrient too. The trick is to place your joy on a foundation. If you're going to have the Sunday treat, invite protein to the party. 2 eggs alongside, or a Greek yogurt first, or a handful of nuts in your pocket for a quick bite while you wait for your order. If you know a stack of syrupy pancakes makes you sleepy and wobbly, order 1, not 3, and let the fruit on the side be real fruit. If you love a flavored latte, pick the small and sip it after a bite of something sturdy. That's the art of a healthy lifestyle for seniors who still want to live, not just follow rules. Before we close, let me give you one more picture from real life. Mr. Hernandez is 75, a retired bus mechanic in San Antonio, and he keeps a tidy garage with the neatest pegboard you've ever seen. He'd eat a cinnamon roll and a large coffee most mornings because he liked to start sweet. And then he wondered why his hands felt jittery when he worked on his model trains at 10. We made a pact he could keep. He kept his coffee, but smaller and after food. He ate a breakfast taco with eggs and black beans on a warm corn tortilla with a spoon of salsa, and he added half a cup of sliced oranges, not the big glass of juice. On days he wanted the cinnamon roll, he split it with his wife and added a side of cottage cheese. He didn't become a saint. He became a man whose heart and legs felt steadier by lunchtime. He tells his friends he didn't give anything up. He just learned how to eat the way his age wants him to, which is another way to say he learned daily habits for healthy aging. He can repeat without thinking. If this felt like a scolding, I missed my mark. My goal is not to take away your favorite morning. It's to give you a map that lets your heart and your legs feel supported by the first choices you make each day. The map is simple and civilized, the kind of plan an old friend would whisper while handing you a plate. Include real protein, include real fiber, include a gentle source of potassium, take your coffee after a bite and not before, shrink the added sugars to a treat, and notice how your morning feels in your own body. That's doctor advice for seniors that respects your independence. It is senior wellness that meets you where you actually live, at the counter, at the diner, at the table near the sunny window, so you can keep walking farther, standing steadier, and enjoying a life that is not ruled by a roller coaster. If you found yourself nodding along, if an image from your own kitchen flashed in your mind, take that as a good sign. Tomorrow morning is not a test. It's an invitation. Put a glass of water by the sink tonight. Set out a small bowl and a spoon. Move the yogurt to the front of the fridge. Put the nuts where you can see them. You don't need to change your identity. You only need to change the shape of the first 15 minutes. That small shift can support heart health for elderly friends like you and me, and it can make the muscles in your legs feel like dependable old companions again. Prevention over repair. Calm over chaos. Simple over complicated. That's the kind of healthy aging the world could use more of, starting with us, right here, tomorrow morning. Think of this next stretch as switching on the kitchen light and seeing how everything connects. The plate on your table is not just food. It's a set of signals your body reads in real time. Your heart reads those signals, your leg muscles read them, your brain reads them, and the hormones that set your day's tempo read them. When the morning opens with a quick sugar surge and a strong jolt of caffeine, the message can be confusing. Speed up, then crash, then ask for more. When the morning opens with steadier fuel and a calmer sequence, the message is clear. Wake gently. Stay steady. Move safely. Think clearly. That is the plain English physics of breakfast, and it is a friend to healthy aging because it keeps the day from spiraling into rescue snacks, jittery energy, and wobbly steps. Start with the heart, because that's where confidence lives. Overnight, your pressure often drifts lower, which is your body's way of letting the pump rest. When you stand, your vessels should tighten a little, and your heart should nudge the pressure up so blood gets to your brain and the tiny nerves that run your balance. If you've had hours without water, and you launch your day with fast starch and strong coffee before any protein, the stand-up moment is like asking an engine to rev with very little fuel in the line. Some people notice a grey sparkle at the edge of vision. Others feel a fog. Some feel a flutter that settles once they sit. That flutter can be a perfectly normal response to caffeine on an empty stomach, but paired with a sugar rush, it makes the body work harder than it needs to. When you stack breakfast differently, water first, modest caffeine after food, protein to slow release, fiber to lengthen the curve, you turn that same stand-up moment into a ramp instead of a cliff. It may not sound dramatic, but a ramp is what keeps you from grabbing the counter. Your legs are amazing machines with 2-second hearts built into your calves. Each time your heel lifts and your toe pushes, those muscles squeeze veins and send blood uphill against gravity. If you begin the day on a sharp rise and drop of blood sugar, your muscles feel like they are being asked to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. Add dehydration and they may protest with a cramp on the first steps from the table. Give them steady fuel and a glass of water, and the puzzle pieces fit. That's why so many people report that a plate with real protein and color, plus a short, gentle walk after eating, makes their calves behave better. There is nothing mystical happening. It's blood moving the way it should, at a pace your body enjoys. You're also asking insulin to take a calmer ride, which supports heart health in the long run and steadier mood in the short run. The quiet hormone dance deserves a simple explanation. When you eat fast carbohydrates, your blood sugar rises quickly. Your body sends out insulin to escort that sugar into muscles and other cells. If the rise is steep, the response can overshoot in some people, leading to a dip that feels like shakiness or urgent hunger. Protein and fiber soften the hill, so the rise and the escorting response are both gentler. That means fewer crashes, less frantic snacking, and a brain that doesn't call for candy at 10:30. Caffeine adds its own layer by nudging stress signals and, for some, briefly raising heart rate or changing how the vessels respond. Most of the time, that nudge is fine, even pleasant, but on an empty stomach it can tip a sensitive morning toward the jitters. Sliding caffeine to after a few bites of food is a simple dial turn that many people never try because no one ever told them it mattered. Consider this, your nudge to try it and see. Now picture how real lives in America collide with these simple mechanics. Many of us wake to an alarm after a night with too much screen light and too little deep sleep. We reach for the biggest mug in the cupboard because we've learned to fight tired with caffeine. We tell ourselves a glass of juice is fruit, which sometimes it is, but often it's a cup of sugar without the fiber that tells your body to take its time. We skip protein out of habit, or old cholesterol fears that no longer match modern advice, and we choose the softest bread because it's easy to chew and quick to toast. All of this has a kind logic. It's a person being kind to their morning. But the result is a short blast of energy, followed by a sag that makes the rest of the day harder. The revision I'm asking for keeps the kindness and swaps the sequence. Water, where there was none. Protein, where there was air. Color, where there was beige. Caffeine moved 10 minutes later. Sweetness scaled back to a whisper. Wellness after 70 is rarely about heroics. It's about small dials like these. I want to separate whispers from red flags, so you don't carry unnecessary fear and you don't miss what matters. A whisper sounds like this. You feel a little shaky or oddly sleepy an hour after a sweet, starchy breakfast. Your calves complain when you first stand but settle after you move for a minute or two. Your head feels foggy until you eat something sturdier. You notice you're cranky or snack hungry in late morning on days you start with juice and toast. These are signals to adjust the plate, the timing, and the first sips of the day. Red flags speak louder and more specifically. New chest pressure or pain, especially with shortness of breath or sweating, is not a breakfast fix. That's urgent. A leg that swells, warms, and hurts on one side deserves same-day medical evaluation. Sudden speech trouble, facial droop, or weakness on one side is an emergency. These are not common breakfast reactions. They are rules that keep you safe for the long haul. Keeping the categories straight lets you practice daily habits for healthy aging with a light heart instead of a worried one. Because numbers calm nerves, a home log can be the friend who tells the truth without judgment. You don't need a spreadsheet. A pocket notebook or a phone note works. On a line, note the time you woke, what you actually ate and drank in the first hour, any short walk or movement you did, and how you felt at 90 minutes. If you have a glucose meter because you live with diabetes or pre-diabetes, a pair of readings before breakfast and 1 to 2 hours after the first bite shows you exactly how that plate behaves in your body. If you don't have a meter, your feelings still tell a story. Clear or foggy, steady or shaky, cramps or no cramps, ravenous or fine. If you have a blood pressure cuff, a seated reading before food, and a reading after you've been upright for a few minutes, can reveal a morning dip that explains a head rush. Bring a week or two of these brief notes to your clinician. Instead of vague frustration, I feel off in the mornings, you arrive with a pattern. That pattern may point to simple fixes such as adjusting medication timing, choosing a different antihypertensive in consultation with your clinician, or adding a small protein snack if you take insulin or other glucose-lowering therapies that increase risk of a mid-morning dip. There's a cultural layer worth naming because it shapes breakfast as much as any nutrient. We live in a country that sells speed in the morning and comfort at night. Quick bowls, quick bars, drive-through lanes, and mugs that could double as paint buckets promise to deliver us into the workday without asking anything of us. Then at night, screens glow past bedtime, and dinners run large. The body keeps score. If you've ever noticed that the sweetest breakfasts happen after the worst nights of sleep, you've seen the scorecard. Reversing chronic disease naturally isn't a slogan. It's acknowledging how these daily rhythms tug on blood pressure, sugar, appetite, and mood, then placing small weights in the other direction. Better sleep begins with a better morning, and a better morning begins with a plate that keeps your energy steady. If you also dim lights an hour before bed and keep late-night snacking modest, you'll find the morning easier to honor. One more vignette to make this real. A couple in their early 70s came to me after they both had what they called wobbly mornings. He loved a big glass of sweet tea at breakfast because that's how he grew up, and she loved raisin toast with a swipe of butter because it felt light. Both took blood pressure medications at night as prescribed. Both had started skipping breakfast protein because they thought it was better for cholesterol, and both worried they might be pre-diabetic because of late morning cravings. We made a handful of changes built for their zip code and budget. He kept tea but brewed it less sweet, and later, after food. She kept toast, but changed to a seeded whole grain and added peanut butter. They split a Greek yogurt with berries and walnuts, while the eggs scrambled, and they shared 2 eggs instead of 4. They moved one of their medications to breakfast, after a conversation with their primary care clinician. They walked the length of their cul-de-sac and back before dishes. In 2 weeks, the wobbly phase shifted. In a month, their logs showed fewer dips in pressure upon standing and gentler post-breakfast glucose curves. They didn't adopt a different personality. They adopted a breakfast that behaves. Some viewers ask about specific labs or tests to discuss with their clinicians, not to chase diagnosis, but to guide breakfast and the rest of the routine. If cramps persist despite hydration and better protein, talking about checking electrolytes on a basic metabolic panel is reasonable. If morning fog is paired with thirst and frequent urination, an A1C may clarify how sugar control is trending. If leg aches while walking grow more consistent and require frequent stops, an ankle brachial index can screen for circulation issues in the legs. If anemia is suspected, or night cramps are a big theme, ferritin may be useful. None of these tests replace a stable morning sequence. They support it and help the plan meet your body as it island. That's doctor advice for seniors that respects individuality without encouraging unnecessary testing. Food is more than macros. It's memories and money. Best foods for seniors are often the ones you will actually buy and cook. In the US, that can mean eggs, canned tuna or salmon, rotisserie chicken, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, peanut or almond butter, beans, oats, apples, bananas, berries when affordable, and frozen vegetables that are picked at their peak and priced kindly. Whole grain bread with a short ingredient list is a reliable vehicle. If you shop sales, you can keep a rotation that avoids boredom and respects the budget. If you live in a food desert, a shelf of beans, oats, and peanut butter can still deliver a breakfast with protein and fiber. If you're on the road, most diners will happily plate 2 eggs, a bowl of fruit, and whole wheat toast, and many will swap hash browns for sliced tomatoes if you ask. Senior health thrives on kindness to the wallet, as much as kindness to the arteries. Because many of you care about anti-aging foods and the look and feel of your skin, it's fair to note that breakfast choices ripple out there too. Steadier sugar curves mean fewer glycation hits on collagen, which in plain language means less of the slow stiffening that shows up as creaky joints and tired-looking skin. Healthy fats from nuts, seeds, and avocado support the cell membranes that keep skin hydrated. A splash of berries is not a beauty secret. It's a practical way to tuck in color and antioxidants that support whole-body wellness. You don't have to chase miracle shampoos or magic serums when the biggest lever is a plate that keeps your inner weather calm. That's not a promise of youth. It's a promise of good sense. There is a special corner here for those who live with diabetes or are on the edge of it. If you take medications that can lower blood sugar, a starchy, sweet breakfast without protein can feel fine at first, then drop you into a dip that is unpleasant at best and unsafe at worst. The simple fix is to anchor the starch with protein and fiber, and to be mindful of timing. Eating the protein portion first or alongside the first bites changes how quickly the rest lands in your bloodstream. A 10-minute walk afterward further smooths the line. If you measure sugars at home, try a week where you write down what you ate, your numbers, and how you felt. Bring that to your clinician and ask for help tailoring the plan. This is not about restriction. It's about building a morning that lets you live your day without wrestling a dragon every 2 hours. Alcohol deserves a short mention because it echoes into breakfast. A heavy pour at night flattens deep sleep and dehydrates you. You wake groggy and dry, reach for coffee and quick sugar, and the loop continues. If you enjoy a drink, keep it modest and early in the evening. Hydrate before bed and protect your sleep window. The payoff arrives at breakfast in the form of better choices that feel doable. Likewise, late-night snacking on sweets sets up a higher baseline for morning sugar. A small piece of fruit with a handful of nuts after dinner is friendlier to your morning than cookies eaten in front of a glowing screen. As you practice, expect a learning curve. Some days, the old routine will pull you back. That's normal. You are not auditioning for a nutrition show. You are shaping a morning that supports how to live longer after 70 by reducing avoidable strain on your heart and legs. When you notice a better day, name it. When you backslide, forgive it. When you find a combination that makes you feel like yourself steady, clear, ready, repeat it until it's boring. Boring is beautiful when it comes to senior wellness, because boring means dependable, and dependable is what keeps you walking farther and laughing more. Everything we've covered is a bridge between the science you can't see and the choices you can. It's also a bridge between the person you used to be and the person you want to keep being. If breakfast used to be a shrug, let it become a small promise you keep to your heart and your legs. If breakfast used to be an apology after a rough night, let it become the first good decision of the day. You do not need to be perfect to experience the steadying that comes from water first. Real protein, real fiber, modest caffeine, and a plate that doesn't try to be dessert in the morning. You need to be kind and consistent. That is the essence of a healthy lifestyle for seniors. Ordinary moments, chosen well. Imagine we're standing in your kitchen on a Tuesday, and the weather just threw you a curveball. Maybe there's frost on the mailbox and your knees complain at the idea of a sidewalk. Maybe you live on the 3rd floor and the elevator is out. Maybe you use a cane or a rollator, and your hallway is your main highway. The good news is that the same steady blood sugar, steady blood pressure breakfast rhythm still belongs to you, and so does the tiny movement that makes it work even better. Personalizing this routine is not about doing more. It is about swapping, scaling, and sequencing, so that healthy aging feels like your life, not a stranger's life you're trying on. Start with the body you woke up in today. If your knees feel stiff when you first stand, Don't accept that stiffness as a stop sign. Treat it like a red light that soon turns green. While your coffee cools and your eggs set, put both hands on the countertop and practice a tall, proud posture that gives your lungs space and your balance confidence. Roll one shoulder and then the other. Lift your heels and settle them down 10 or 20 times, gently pumping the blood in your calves back toward your heart. Rock from heel to toe as if you're slowly bowing to a friendly audience. Draw little circles with your ankles like you're tracing a coin on the floor. Each of these is a tiny hello to the second hearts in your calves, and they require no heroics. If the floors are cold, wear shoes or supportive slippers. Bare feet can tug at cranky arches. When the green light arrives, walk your home loop. If you have a hallway, that's your track. If you have a driveway, that's your lane. If you have stairs and they're safe, climb a flight at your own tempo and hold the rail, letting your heels kiss the step as you go. If a cane or rollator is your partner, you are not disqualified, you are wise. The device gives you a wider base and turns a wobble into a smooth line. 8 to 12 minutes is not a law, it's a target. Some mornings you have 5, some you have 15. What matters is the message, and the message is clear. Good morning, calves. Good morning, heart. We're awake. Cold or heat can play tricks with motivation. When winter settles in and the sidewalk glitters with frost, you still own a porch plan. Light the room, open the blinds to invite morning light, and make your movement route indoors. March in place beside the counter while your breakfast rests. Try a gentle sit to stand from a sturdy chair. Sit tall, lean slightly forward. Stand with your heels under you. Then sit with control. Repeat at a pace that lets you feel your thighs wake up without groaning at you. If you'd like a little rhythm, turn on a favorite song and let the track be your timer. In summer, heat drains energy quickly and can lower blood pressure after a night in an air-conditioned house. So lead with water before you lead with caffeine, and make your outside minutes early, shady, and shorter. In rain, the hallway becomes your friend. None of these adjustments break the plan. They are the plan doing what it is meant to do fit you. Apartment life asks for creativity, not apology. A living room can be a walking track if you move the coffee table and give yourself a clear path. Hallways make great runways because they're narrow and stable. Kitchen counters are balance beams that don't move. If your building has stairs, walk down one flight and up one flight. Slowly and with a hand on the rail, then pause and breathe. If the elevator works, ride it down and stroll the lobby while the building wakes, waving to the doorman as the sun climbs the brick across the street. These versions count for over 70 fitness because the body only knows signals, not settings. Your heart and legs are not grading you for scenery. They're listening to the rhythm you send. Now let's talk food for mornings that need more kindness than usual. Hitting 20 to 30 grams of protein doesn't require a culinary degree or fancy powders if you don't want them. It requires a little planning and a shelf in your fridge that belongs to breakfast. In a US grocery store, you can fill that shelf with simple anchors. A tub of plain Greek yogurt waits for berries and a handful of chopped walnuts. A carton of eggs becomes a quick scramble with a pinch of cheddar and spinach from a bag, or a hard-boiled pear ready to peel. Cottage cheese partners with sliced peaches from the freezer that thaw while you pour your water. Canned salmon or tuna, drained and mixed with a spoon of olive oil, mayo, and lemon, lands on whole grain toast with a slice of tomato. Peanut butter or almond butter spreads on that same toast and welcomes a few chia seeds for fiber ballast. If you love oats, cook them plain, and then invite protein to the party with a scoop of Greek yogurt stirred in after the heat is off. Or fold in cottage cheese so the bowl becomes creamy on purpose. If you prefer savory breakfasts, leftover chicken breast with sliced avocado and cherry tomatoes becomes a quick plate that feels like lunch at 9 in the morning. If you can't face solid food right away, a small smoothie can carry you. Plain yogurt, frozen berries, a tablespoon of peanut butter, milk of your choice, and a muted drizzle of honey or half a banana for sweetness. If your clinician has cleared it and you enjoy it, a scoop of whey or pea protein is fine to use here, but you don't have to. Budget is part of senior nutrition because real life costs money. Buying a bag of frozen mixed berries is usually cheaper than chasing fresh when they're out of season. Plain store-brand yogurt is typically a better value than the sweet, single-serve cups dressed up like dessert. Eggs remain one of the most economical proteins in America. Canned salmon beats lox prices by a mile and carries the same omega-3 family your heart likes to see. Beans are the quiet champions. A small breakfast burrito with eggs and black beans in a warm corn tortilla is a powerful plate for a few quarters. Rotisserie chicken turns into 2 days of breakfasts without heating the kitchen. Whole grain bread with a short ingredient list is more filling than white bread with a paragraph of mysteries. None of this is fancy, but all of it is kind to your arteries, your sugar curve, and your wallet. If you live with arthritis in your hands, peeling oranges or chopping nuts may feel like too much. Buy pre-chopped walnuts in a small bag and keep them in the freezer so they last. Choose a banana you can slice with the back of a spoon. Buy baby spinach that needs only a handful tossed into a pan. Keep a small chef's knife sharp. A sharp knife is safer than a dull one because it doesn't slip. If you live alone and find that food goes to waste, pick 2 breakfast patterns and alternate them all week so you use what you buy. A pattern might be an egg and avocado toast on odd days and yogurt with berries and nuts on even days. Simplicity is a longevity tip. Decision fatigue is not. Personalization also includes medication, timing, and safety, which is where your clinician becomes an ally. If you routinely feel lightheaded upon standing after your morning meds, ask whether any of them could be shifted to a different time of day. Diuretics, for example, may be friendlier after breakfast than right at waking. Some blood pressure medicines can be timed to avoid an early dip. If you live with diabetes and take insulin or other glucose-lowering medications, a protein-first approach can support steadier numbers, but it's essential to know how your script and your plate interact. A few days of paired checks before breakfast and 1 to 2 hours after tell a better story than a single number. If repeated checks show high peaks or dips, bring them to your doctor or diabetes educator. This is doctor advice for seniors that avoids guesswork and keeps you safe. Because warning signs often hide in plain sight, let's give them a better stage. A whisper in this context is a pattern of mid-morning sleepiness after sweet or starchy starts, shakiness that stops once you eat something sturdier, headaches that bloom with your second strong coffee on an empty stomach, or calf tightness in the first 100 steps that fades as you keep moving. Those are invitations to adjust breakfast, water, and timing. Red flags are different in tone and demand a different response. Chest discomfort that radiates, shortness of breath that is new or worrisome. A leg that swells, warms, and hurts on one side, sudden trouble speaking or smiling evenly, weakness in one arm or a drooping face. Those call for immediate care, not a kitchen fix. Keeping these categories straight is part of senior wellness because it frees you to live without carrying avoidable fear, while also giving danger the seriousness it deserves. The labs and tests you might hear about in a routine visit aren't there to scare you. They are tools that make personalization easier. A basic metabolic panel gives a glance at electrolytes and kidney function, which matter for cramps and blood pressure control. A lipid panel is a standard part of heart health for elderly adults and helps your team steer long-term risk. A hemoglobin A1C tells the average of your blood sugar control over months, which informs how strict you need to be with quick sugars at breakfast. If calf pain builds with walking and eases with rest, an ankle brachial index compares blood pressure at the ankle and arm to screen for circulation issues. If night cramps keep showing up, ferritin can check iron stores. If you snore loudly and wake tired despite a steady plate, screening for sleep apnea may matter, because oxygen dips at night can nudge morning blood pressure and cravings. None of these tests replace common sense. They refine it. They help you and your clinician decide where to place effort, so that reverse chronic disease naturally isn't a slogan but a series of specific, boring, successful choices. Food culture is family culture, and changing breakfast can feel like breaking a tradition. Don't break it, bend it. If Sunday means a diner and a sweet roll, share one and add a side of cottage cheese or an egg. If your grandchild loves waffles at your kitchen table, keep the waffles and add peanut butter and sliced strawberries plus a glass of water for both of you while you laugh. If your personal comfort food is cereal and milk with a banana, keep the bowl and shrink the cereal. Shift to a less sweet option. Add a handful of nuts and pour milk with more protein. If flavored creamer makes you feel human, pour a measured spoon and enjoy it after a few bites of real food instead of before. This is a healthy lifestyle for seniors that protects joy while overseeing the budget of energy and mood. Weight control is never just about willpower. It's about making the first choice of the day remove friction from the 100 choices that follow. A protein-forward breakfast often means fewer snack emergencies by mid-morning and less of the irresistible pull towards sweet coffee drinks at noon. A gentle walk after breakfast keeps your appetite honest. If weight is a goal, watch portions with kindness, not punishment. A pair of eggs and a heap of vegetables is different than a pair of eggs and a mountain of hash browns, and you'll feel the difference at 10:30. If you're often hungry soon after your plate, add an inch of extra protein rather than filling the inch with more starch. If you wake thirsty at night, move the bulk of your water earlier into the day and decrease late evening fluids to help sleep and morning steadiness. How to sleep better after 70 begins long before bedtime. It starts with a morning rhythm and a plate that teach your hormones what time it island. The last piece of personalization is emotional, not nutritional. You deserve a morning that feels like you're on your own side. If you've spent years talking to yourself like a disappointed coach, try talking like a kind neighbor instead. Set the table for tomorrow tonight. A glass by the sink, a banana on the counter, the yogurt at the front of the fridge, the pan on the stove. Write yourself a friendly note on a sticky. Water, protein, color, walk. When you manage it, smile and move on. When you miss, shrug and begin again at lunch rather than throwing away the day. We are not aiming for a magazine cover. We are building daily habits for healthy aging that make room for birthdays, road trips, and mornings that start at a doctor's office instead of your porch. Consistency beats intensity, and calm beats clever. If you take nothing else from this wander through your kitchen and your neighborhood, take this. You own the dials. You can turn them without asking permission. You can move caffeine to after food, add protein to your first plate, invite color and potassium with fruit or avocado, walk a loop you trust, and treat warning whispers like invitations rather than insults. It's ordinary, yes, and that is exactly why it works. Ordinary is repeatable. Repeatable becomes protective. Protective habits held over years are what people mean when they say how to live longer after 70 without chasing the latest headline. They mean mornings like yours, chosen on purpose. Picture a string of mornings that fit together like soft beads, each one easy to pick up and wear. That's the heart of locking in a new pattern. Make it repeatable, forgiving, and personal. Then let time do the heavy lifting. You don't need a spreadsheet or a stopwatch to turn this into your life. You need a simple story you tell yourself each day, a story that begins the night before. The body loves rhythm. It loves to know when light will arrive, when food will arrive, when movement will arrive, and when rest will arrive. Once it recognizes the song, it starts to sing along without you thinking about it. That's how healthy aging feels when it works. It doesn't feel like effort. It feels like finally moving with the current instead of pushing against it. Begin where all good mornings begin, which is the evening that came before. Your night is a gentle on-ramp, not a cliff. Dinner isn't a feast that asks your heart to idle high while you sleep. It's a plate that lets the engine cool. When you keep portions friendlier in the evening, when you lean on vegetables and lean proteins and give starch a smaller spotlight, you set yourself up to wake clear. When you respect salt as a seasoning and not a hobby, your ankles and your blood pressure thank you tomorrow. When your last glass of water happens earlier in the night and you sip lightly after that, you protect your sleep and avoid the bathroom ladder that interrupts deep rest. If you enjoy alcohol, choose a modest pour early in the evening and let the last hours before bed be for water and calm. A warm light, a quieter screen, the small ritual of laying out a glass and a breakfast bowl on the counter, perhaps setting the blood pressure cuff where you will see it. These are not chores. They are kindness. You're creating a runway for the morning plane to take off smoothly. Imagine a 10-day stretch that stitches these choices into muscle memory. It is not a challenge and not a test. It's a friendly agreement with yourself, the kind you would make with a neighbor who feeds your cat while you're away. Day 1 is a soft start. not a declaration. You pour a glass of water first thing and drink it while the house is still quiet. You check your pressure seated, letting the number be information rather than judgment. You step to the window and greet the light, even if the sky in your town is grey and stubborn. You let your calves wake with small movements while the kettle hums or the pan warms. You plate a breakfast with enough protein to matter. You keep the first coffee until after a few bites so it feels like a friend, not a drill sergeant. You stroll your loop, inside or outside, at a pace that feels polite to your joints. You go about your day and notice whether the mid-morning feels steadier than usual. The second morning isn't a copy, it's a rhyme. Perhaps your sleep had more interruptions. You do less and still show up. You shorten the walk, but you keep the water, the light, the protein. You let the caffeine wait. You write one line in a notebook. Felt clear by 10, calves quiet, or needed a snack early. Add more yogurt tomorrow. That line is a breadcrumb back to yourself. By day 3, the glass on the counter has become a landmark your eyes expect. You crack 2 eggs and slice a banana without any sense that you are performing a trick. You remember to glance at the bread label and you choose the version with more fiber and fewer promises on the front. By day 4, you hear the small voice in your head when your hand reaches for the flavored creamer. It says, "Pour a teaspoon and be done." And you listen because the last few mornings felt good. You take a short post-breakfast stroll while the news radio murmurs in the background. By day 5, a rhythm hums under everything. The scale hasn't moved dramatically, and that's fine. The morning steadiness is its own proof. On day 6, you wake to rain, and you walk the hallway anyway, heel to toe, arms swinging as far as feels safe, sliding a hand along the counter when you turn at the end. On day 7, you treat yourself to diner eggs with a grandchild, and you balance the treat by letting fruit be fruit, not a large glass of juice. On day 8, you check your cuff and notice the numbers are less jumpy on standing. You make a note to show your clinician. On day 9, you realize coffee tastes better after food because your body is ready for it. It feels like a nice push, not a shove. On day 10, you look back and see you've built a small porch plan that doesn't require inspiration anymore. It's become what you do. This isn't a rule book. It's a melody. It bends around a dentist appointment and a trip to the hardware store, a winter storm, and a summer heat wave. It keeps its shape when you visit family and sleep in a guest room, because you know the first few minutes of every day belong to you, the way brushing your teeth belongs to you. Water is the opening chord. Light is the second chord. A measured plate is the chorus. A small walk is the bridge that connects sections of the song. When you miss a chord, you don't throw away the song, you pick it back up where you are. That kind habit is the difference between a month of change and a morning of change. There is a reason to talk about the little devils that pull you off the path at night. Screens stretch the evening and tell your eyes it's noon when it's nearly midnight. The blue light isn't just an idea. It's a message to your brain that unwinds the wires you're trying to coil for sleep. Dim the phone, dim the TV, or move them back as if they were parked cars in the wrong spot on your street. Replace the last half hour with low light and a book or music that doesn't spike your pulse. If you wake thirsty, consider whether your day's water arrived too late and aim to move it earlier tomorrow. If you stand and feel woozy after a very hot shower, consider cooling the temperature a notch and sitting to towel off before you move. These are not scoldings, they are tiny levers. You pull them and the morning comes easier. How to sleep better after 70 often begins at dusk and ends at breakfast, and both ends matter. Salt has its own chapter because it wears different hats. Your heart appreciates moderation for the long game, but your morning steadiness may also suffer if salt swings wildly across days. Packaged soups and fast food do most of the mischief. If your ankles leave dents in socks by evening and shrink by morning, if your rings fit differently at night, that's your body whispering about salt and water. Shift toward cooking more at home, tasting your food before salting, and learning to love acids like lemon and vinegar that wake flavor without swelling ankles. If your clinician has you on medications that shift fluid, ask about timing so the night doesn't become a parade to the bathroom. None of this means bland food or a joyless life. It means choosing the kind of joy that lets you walk farther and sit longer without squirming. Alcohol is honest company if you keep it small and early. A generous pour at 9 o'clock often buys you a sleep that looks long on a clock and feels short in the bones. You wake with a dryness that leans on coffee and sweet starts, and the cycle continues. A small glass with dinner and then a coast into water gives you a better morning. If you're monitoring blood sugar, you'll see the difference in your appetite and your desire for dessert that night. You do not need to become a different person. You need to let the version of you who wants steady mornings win the small tug of war late in the day. There is poetry in ordinary days when you see them from a small distance. Watch yourself from above for a moment. The garage door opens and you step out into thin winter light in a coat you've owned for years. The air catches in your throat the way it did in grade school, and the quiet makes you notice the sound your shoes make on the driveway. You walk to the mailbox and back, noticing a crack in the sidewalk you plan to avoid tomorrow. You come in, warm your hands around a mug, and fork 2 eggs into a plate that looks like you. The radio says the weather will turn. You turn with it, not against it. Later that day, you climb the grocery aisle with a list that knows you. Yogurt, eggs, greens, berries, nuts, bread with a short list of ingredients, cottage cheese, beans, maybe salmon if it's on sale. This is not diet food and not a program. It is a pantry for a person who has decided that prevention is not a slogan but a daily gift to their future self. Watch yourself in summer. The light arrives early and yellow. You pour water and stand by the window while your yard hums. You smile at the neighbor who walks a small dog with a big personality. You drop a handful of frozen berries into a bowl and listen to the way they tap against the ceramic before the yogurt softens them. You spread avocado on toast and add a sprinkle of salt, the way artists add a last brushstroke. You put on a hat and step outside for a gentle loop before the heat swells. Your calves feel willing, your head feels awake, and you arrive at the rest of your day without a sugar crash. These are small scenes. They become large when repeated. That's senior wellness in real time. If you've ever wondered what it looks like to reverse chronic disease naturally, begin by changing the first 5 minutes and repeat it for months. The body is patient. It responds slowly and steadily to slow and steady changes. That doesn't mean you never see quick wins. Some people find that late morning hunger shocks them less in a week, that naps come because they choose them rather than because they collapse into them, that their blood pressure doesn't leap and dive each time they stand to answer the door. Those are real improvements. The longer game is what your heart and vessels look like when they've had thousands of calm mornings instead of thousands of roller coasters. A day in the life montage might help you see how all of this fits with the rest of the world. Morning begins with the glass, the cuff, the light, the walk, the plate. Late morning brings a stretch and a refill of water, perhaps a handful of almonds if lunch is far away. Lunch looks ordinary. A bowl of chili with beans and chopped onions, or a turkey sandwich on whole grain bread with a side of apple slices. Afternoon asks for a break from screens, so your eyes and neck forgive you. You stand once an hour for a minute and move your ankles and shoulders because the body likes circulation. Evening brings a plate that feeds you without weighing you down. Roasted vegetables with chicken or tofu, a salad that is more than a garnish, a smaller starch portion than you might have chosen once upon a time, a friendly pour of wine if it's your habit, then water to follow, then softer lights and a shorter screen. You set the glass and bowl out for tomorrow and head to bed a little earlier than you used to. You do not chase perfection. You chase a life that lets you do your errands and your hobbies, walk your sidewalks and your store aisles, and feel like yourself. Some people will want measurements and goals to aim at because numbers comfort them. Others will want to avoid numbers because they feel like school. Both approaches can work. If you love numbers, a weekly average of your morning blood pressure, a pair of post-breakfast glucose checks if you have a meter, a step count that tells you walked the block more days than not, these can be pleasant. If you dislike numbers, feelings tell a story you can trust. Steadier mornings, fewer cramps, less frantic snacking, better focus for the crossword, fewer naps you didn't plan. There is no one right way to keep score. There is only the truth you can feel in your own body. We should say out loud that changing breakfast does not replace medical care. It partners with it. You still bring your log to your clinician and ask smart questions. You still report red flags immediately. You still take medications as prescribed and discuss any changes rather than inventing them. Food is powerful and movement is powerful, but they are not a replacement for diagnosis and treatment. They are the ground your treatment walks on. Doctor advice for seniors lives right here, where ordinary choices line up with the care your team provides. When people think of longevity, they picture decades and headlines and genes that belong to a lucky few. What longevity tips look like in real homes are smaller and more personal. They look like carrying a water bottle on your morning walk and choosing the smaller latte after a plate that gave you protein. They look like stocking a pantry with best foods for seniors that fit your budget and taste, so the choice is easy rather than noble. They look like exercises for seniors at home that leave you a little warmer and steadier, not exhausted. They look like a breakfast that doesn't argue with your medications. They look like walking past shelves of bright boxes at the grocery store because you know that the plain tub and the simple loaf will treat you better tomorrow. They look like quiet confidence. I'll leave you with an image to carry into your next grocery run and your next sunrise. You, older and wiser, standing in your kitchen with the calm of someone who trusts their morning. The light is kind, the music is low, the day hasn't made demands yet. You reach for what you already planned because you planned it last night when you were your own friend. You pour, you stir, you slice, you breathe. You check what you need to check and you walk what you can walk. Your heart hums evenly. Your legs are steady as you step onto the porch and look down your street. You feel like you. That's not a miracle. That's a habit. If this conversation gave you a new picture of what your mornings can be, if it made you feel seen or less alone in the small struggles that come with getting older in a busy country, I'd be honored if you'd help it travel. Tap like so, the algorithm knows senior health content matters. Subscribe if you want more warm, practical stories that meet you where you live. Share this with a friend or a family member who wakes shaky or wobbly and deserves steadier days. Prevention beats repair. Small beats grand. And tomorrow's breakfast is already waiting to do a little more good than yesterday's did.